Welcome in to another episode of my Dynasty Fantasy Football YouTube. Today, I'm looking at 2025 Dynasty buys. As always, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Let's go. So the first player, Marvin Harrison Jr., and I get it. He wasn't what we wanted in 2024. And look, I mean, I had him ranked as a redraft wide receiver 1. I expected him to do better. And the anger of those, a lot of these things that happen are people are angry at the players because players they picked that happened later in rookie drafts did better. If you spent the 102 on Marvin Harrison Jr. in a Superflex rookie draft when you could have had Jaden Daniels or Malik Neighbors, you must be really frustrated, right? Frustrated. I get that. But Marvin Harrison Jr. was not bad in 2024. He was disappointing, but not bad. 62 catches, 885 yards, 8 touchdowns, 116 targets, 3.6 catches, and 52.1 yards a game. So 116 targets as a rookie is not bad. That's actually pretty good for a rookie. So the yardage is not awful. 8 touchdowns is decent. The problem is the catch rate. 62 catches out of 116 targets. That's like a 53% catch rate. Who do you blame for that? Do you blame it on Marvin Harrison Jr.? Do you blame it on Kyler Murray? Or do you blame it on whose fault they actually think it is? Offensive coordinator Drew Petzing. Regardless, though, that was the problem. Now, because of that, MHJ, Marvin Harrison Jr., averaged just 11.6 PPR points a game, 40th among wide receivers. He was not helpful. If you draft him in redraft, he killed you. You draft him in Dynasty, he didn't help you. So that is clear. So people are mad. Now, what do you do about that? When people are mad, that's usually an opportunity to take advantage. The biggest reason to buy a player is always frustration. Frustration really gets people to think irrationally. And when people think irrationally, they do dumb things like sell very talented players for not very talented prices. Even now, year 2 remains the most common breakout year for wide receivers. And now this is not me saying that players who were terrible are going to break out. This is me saying players who might have showed something pretty good, like Marvin Harrison Jr. did, but didn't break out for fantasy, will break out in year 2. Marvin Harrison Jr. fits in that category. Now, historical precedent. Jackson Smith-Njigba and DJ Moore, both drafted in the first round, both had significantly worse rookie years, both then became fantasy relevant to a high degree in year 2. Now, neither of these players became a super high-end dynasty wide receiver. And I do think it's fair to say the ultra high end of outcomes, range of the outcomes, is probably gone for Marvin Harrison Jr. Usually, if you're going to be a superstar, you are immediately. Justin Jefferson, immediately. Jamar Chase, immediately. Typically, you're elite immediately, or at least by the end of your rookie year. Brian Thomas Jr. was in that category. Puka Nacua in that category. But just because the ultra high end isn't possible doesn't mean that Marvin Harrison Jr. can't be valuable. There's only 5, sometimes even 3 ultra high-end dynasty wide receivers. There are going to be valuable players who are not in that category. Jackson Smith-Njigba is one of those. DJ Moore had a career that was one of those. So how do you buy Marvin Harrison Jr.? Well, I saw some offers in the Dynasty Daddy trade database. This first one, 108 and 210. In this year's class, I mean, you're not getting players at that level at 108. You're not. Marvin Harrison Jr., I'll even do the trade now. I don't even like usually trading rookie picks now. I'll do the trade now. I'll take Marvin Harrison Jr. now. This next one, crazy to me. You could get Marvin Harrison Jr., the 108 and the 205 for Russell Wilson, Mike Evans, and Derrick Henry. Why would anyone do this? I don't understand. Marvin Harrison Jr. is worth a lot more. And then the 108 and 205 come with it. But this was in there. And then I like to include one more reasonable trade. Marvin Harrison Jr. and 208 for Jackson Smith-Njigba, who we just talked about. I still think the range of outcomes for Marvin Harrison Jr. is a bit higher than Jackson Smith-Njigba. With the pick on that side, I would go toward that one. But this is at least a reasonable trade, not the first 2 that were completely out of control. Now, second buy on the list, Josh Downs. And I think that Josh Downs' breakout in year 2 is being completely buried by the only thing that anyone looking at the Colts cares about, which is Anthony Richardson. I get it. If you're looking at it from just a redraft lens, you can be doubtful about Josh Downs for 2025. But for Dynasty, it's a mistake. Downs has had an excellent start to his career. A very young player. This is a player that is probably going to be good for many years. In this 2024 campaign, 72 catches, 803 yards, 5 touchdowns, 107 targets in just 14 games, 5.1 catches, and 57.4 yards a game. That's good volume, consistently delivered volume, and that's playing with Richardson in a lot of the games. Downs averaged 13.1 PPR points a game, 31st among wide receivers. He was a very good player. Now, why do I have Downs as dynasty buy? Well, the splits with and without Richardson are pretty significant. He's still young, and he ascended to become the Colts' top receiving weapon in 2024. In the games where Richardson did not play at all, Downs averaged 7 catches and 63.8 yards per game. So significantly higher volume in those games. And I think this shows that Richardson is the problem. Richardson's either going to massively improve or be replaced in 2025. He was already benched last year. There's no alternative. He's either going to become a good passer or he's not going to be the starter anymore. There's no in between at this stage. Now, Downs is still young. So the problem with a player like Michael Pittman is it's too late. It's too late. Even if Anthony Richardson is replaced and then a new quarterback comes in 2026, Pittman's already going to be 28 at that point, going on 29 in the 2026 season. It's too late for Michael Pittman. But for Josh Downs, it's not too late. He turns just 24 in August. He's about 4 years younger than Pittman. He has plenty of time to have a dynasty relevant career post Anthony Richardson. That's not a concern for me. Downs is the same age as some rookies coming into this year's class. So I don't have an age concern with Josh Downs. And then Downs, as I said earlier, became the number 1 target. He led the team in targets, catches, and yards per game in 2024. He was a clear top weapon in the games he played, not Pittman and not Pierce. The team relied on Downs to move the ball, especially in the non-Richardson game. So I think we saw a lot from Josh Downs that signifies that he's going to be successful moving forward. Now, buying Josh Downs, I mean, some of the deals to buy Josh Downs were so ridiculous, but, I included some. This one, I almost thought I read this wrong, but I didn't. Josh Downs at 204 for Jalen Coker and 307. I get Jalen Coker getting a little bit of hype, but Josh Downs is infinitely better than Jalen Coker. So I don't understand this one. Josh Downs and TJ Hawkinson for Sam Laporta. Okay, that's a little bit more reasonable. I think I'd rather have Downs and Hawkinson. Yes, I'd rather have Laporta over Hawkinson, but I don't think Downs is the difference between those two players. Downs is a very good wide receiver. So I would take the Downs and Hawkinson side here rather easily. And then this last one just makes no sense to me. Buy Josh Downs for Jalen Wright and Demario Douglas. I mean, that's like 2 things you fished out of the garbage bin for a really good player in Josh Downs. I don't understand this one at all. I would easily rather have Josh Downs here. And these were just some of many trades where I like the Josh Downs side. So he's definitely a player that I believe in, is young, and I would be looking to add to my dynasty team no matter where I'm at kind of in my contending or rebuilding cycle. If you like my YouTube content, you should sign up for the Patreon. Right now, I'm offering a 50% discount at all tiers using the code TylerYT. You get my rankings, including my newly posted rookie ranks, which will be updated consistently, access to the Discord, all of my write-ups. I'm doing a series on every NFL team right now, and the ability to ask in advance questions for the YouTube videos. Tiers begin at just $6 a month normally, $3 with that discount, and include all of that, plus options for direct message fantasy advice at higher levels. If you want to know more about the Patreon, check out my Why You Should Join the Patreon videos on the channel. I just dropped another one last week. Unfortunately, I think I'm going to have to do those more frequently. So expect to see those maybe monthly, honestly. It seems like the only way that works to get people into Patreon is to do these 15 to 20-minute advertisements. But, there are worse things than doing an ad read about yourself. So I'll take the necessary evil as it goes. But again, I really appreciate everyone who signed up for my last Patreon promo video. And I hope if you check them out that you choose to make the same decision. With that said, I'll move into my next topic. So my next topic, 2026 firsts. Now, you might say this is not a player. And that's true. So typically, am I almost ever buying players this time of year? If I am, it's usually quarterbacks and superflex, sometimes wide receivers that I think are pretty safe. But typically buying players this time of year, you get all of the risk and you don't get as much of a discount as you should. So I'm usually focused on selling players. Now, I will say, why did I not put current picks on this video? This year's draft is tough. The middle in Superflex, the mid to late first last year, those were exciting. We were excited about those picks. This year, a mid first, it could be a good player, but it's not like a lock to be something valuable. Like Romo Dunze was the 106 in Superflex last year. That's not going to be that level of player. So it's going to be harder to make those types of trades at a value that I like. Maybe the second and third round picks, those are always ones that I target. But the first in this year's draft, not sure I'm going to be trading into that range nearly as much. So if I'm not trading into that range, what will I be doing? Well, I'm always going to be targeting the future first. Why? We'll get into that. So there's a lack of enthusiasm about the future first. So I will say, people are not excited about the 2025 class. There are some good players. We don't have the superstars. We don't even have the B tier that we had last year. It's just at the top is kind of meh. It's good depth of the class with running backs, but the top, not so much. But it's not like what we've had in the past. I remember 2019 was a class like this. When we were doing the 2019 rookie process, everyone was like, oh, I don't like 2019. But 2020, yes, really exciting. Not so this year. I don't hear a lot of hype for 2026 either. It's not like people are saying, well, I don't want 2025, but I'll wait till 2026. That'll be better. Not really. So people are kind of already, as crazy as this is, looking to 2027. I guess Jeremiah Smith is just enough to get people excited. But we can't dismiss an entire class in 2026. There are going to be valuable players in it. There will be, just like there are this year, even if they're not as exciting as we'd want. And always, no matter the hype, future rookie picks are always devalued because people are impatient. They don't like waiting. I mean, who likes waiting, right? Does anyone like waiting? No, but you have to train yourself in Dynasty. And the one thing I will say about future picks is firsts are always valuable. You can always get something for a future first, even if it's years away. People will always value firsts because firsts have the possibility of being those top players. Future seconds, future thirds, I like buying them, but I understand why not everyone is in on that strategy. With that being said, buying 2026 first, I saw some deals that were absolutely insane. We'll get into a few of them. Let's start with this first one. You could get a 26 first. All of these are 12-team Superflex. 26 first for Noah Fant, Tyrone Tracy, and a 26 third. Noah Fant is worthless. 26 third, not worth much. Tyrone Tracy, a fine player, but Tyrone Tracy is already 25. This is not ever going to be worth first. So I would easily take the 26 first here and get out. You can turn around and trade the 26 first for more than this. Next one. Buy 26 first and 26 second for Jalen McMillan and a 26 third. Is Jalen McMillan a nice player? Sure. Is Jalen McMillan ever going to be worth a first? No. The Fantasy Footballers talked about Jalen McMillan today on their podcast. They said kind of what I felt. Good player. Nice. Did he make a difference? Not really. Was it more the role? Yes. Could he be okay next year? Sure. Is Jalen McMillan ever going to be worth a rookie first? I don't think so. This is a rookie first and a second for a third. So to me, all the risk is on the McMillan side. I would easily take this and move on. And then this last one is completely insane to me. You get two 26 firsts for Chase Brown. I like Chase Brown, but I will tell you, people are telling me Chase Brown was great. Chase Brown was great. Those people don't look past the fantasy points. Yes, Chase Brown had an elite fantasy role. If you told me, if I had to pick one of these two, 2023 Rachaad White or Kyren Williams, if I had to pick one of those, which breakout of all the work, every single touch, those players had everything. If I had to pick one, it's Rachaad White. Chase Brown is closer to Rachaad White than he is to Kyren Williams. Chase Brown was not elite. He was not even good. I mean, he was fine, but just fine. Just fine. And if we know this, if you're just okay, and the role goes away, it could all fall apart. He didn't add anything. It's not like Kyron Williams in 2023 or Bucky Irving in 2024, who were close to elite. Chase Brown, not so much. So I would easily take the 226 first here. There's no decision. You can go trade the 226 first for something that's worth a lot more than Chase Brown. You don't have to do that because first will rise in value over time. You can just sit on them, and that's a move you can do. But you can do something with those first if you want, or sit on them. Regardless, I would easily take this deal and remove the risk of Chase Brown. The majority of mock drafts, I have seen the Bengals take a running back with one of their first 3 picks. I have seen that. The majority. So you're taking a huge risk with Chase Brown. This is an easy decision. This is not a decision to take the 26 first. So again, explore options like this. You would think, oh, no, it won't get accepted in my league. Try it. Try it and see. Maybe it'll be accepted in your league. The only way you'll never know is if you don't try. Now, I've got a couple pieces of NFL news, more smaller pieces. This one I thought was interesting. So Matthew Stafford announced that he will play in 2025. It was definitive. It sounds like he wants to work out something with the Rams. He ruled out retirement. For fantasy, we want him to go back to the Rams and stay in the Sean McVay offense. I think that this is a negotiating ploy. I think that Matthew Stafford wants to get the Rams to commit 2 guaranteed years to him, 2025 and 2026. Right now, he doesn't have that. He has some of 2025 and none of 2026. So I think that's what this is. I think the Rams get something done with Stafford and he goes back there. If somehow it blows up, a trade could happen. A trade could happen, and there are many teams who would be interested. But right now, I'm expecting Stafford to be a Ram. Regardless, he's not retiring, and he was really good in 2024. So he will be a starting quarterback in 2025, zero doubt. Now, Erick will miss the 2025 season. It's a shame. It's a shame because he looked pretty good as a rookie, despite coming off that ACL tear. But this is the same thing as Jonathan Brooks. This is an ACL re-tear. And unlike Jonathan Brooks, Erick was almost 3 years older. Erick had more of a history of injuries than Brooks. He'll be 26 by the time he returns in 2026. This is giving me Jake Butt vibes. Just injuries, taking a promising tight end out of play before their career even starts. So put him on IR if you can. But if you don't have IR spots, I honestly don't see a reason to hold Erick. I think his career is probably over. And it sucks because I really liked what I saw in those few games. But ACL re-tear is usually finished, done. Now, I've got a couple of Patreon questions, so we'll get into those and then close out the video. First one, are there any parallels between rookie seasons of fellow UDFA players like Jakobi Meyers, Adam Thielen, and Jalen Coker that would lead us to be bullish on him going into year 2? Well, not really. I mean, Adam Thielen has nothing to do with these 2 other players. Adam Thielen had 0 stats as UDFA in 2013, played special teams for 2 years and did nothing, and then randomly emerged in 2016 in year 4. There is never going to be another Adam Thielen. There hasn't been, and there won't be. A player who just sits around for 3 years and then mysteriously, after not even having 15 targets in any of his first 3 years, just becomes a star. That's not going to happen. There's not going to be another Adam Thielen. Jakobi Meyers, though? Okay. Meyers is probably about the ceiling for Coker if everything goes right. They had similar types of year 1. They produced something, but not much. They were on the field. They did have actual statistics. Meyers went on to a decent career. For fantasy, the last 2 years with the TD spike in 2013 and then his volume after the Adams trade this year, he was fine. He never was all that great. Do I think Jalen Coker is going to hit this ceiling? I doubt it because I think the Panthers are going to add more receivers unlike the Patriots did. And then Meyers got in kind of a situation where players were out and over the last 2 years, which helped him. So, no, I wouldn't expect Coker to hit that ceiling. But yes, Jakobi Meyers' career path, actually a pretty good comp for the best case scenario for Jalen Coker. As for Adam Thielen, no. There's never been an Adam Thielen since, and there won't be. Do rookies build height, weight, impact dynasty rankings at all? No. And it's a one-word answer. I do not care. Do not care at all. What I do care about is the draft capital. If the team doesn't care, i.e. Jahmyr Gibbs, they drafted him anyway, I won't either. If the team downgrades him, players who... Now, when do we factor in draft capital? a player had a lot of college production, tested pretty well in terms of the drills at the combine, but fell in the draft. Deuce Vaughn. The teams just didn't like him. They said he was too small. Okay, draft capital will tell us that. Draft capital will tell us that. So if the draft capital tells us the teams care, then we care. If it says they don't care, then we don't care. So the answer is not really. I don't spend really any time looking at this. The things that I think are important are draft capital, number one. And number two is production profile. Generally, the only thing I factor in other than draft capital is actual college production, because I think sometimes NFL teams actually get too caught up in the measurements and they overrate players who lack college production because they think they can get more out of them. That does not tend to work. That's your Xavier Legette type player. Tends not to work out so well. But build as like a separate factor, no. I don't even put it in my Patreon spreadsheet as one of my columns. So yeah, the answer is pretty much just no. Any predictions on new Godwin landing spot, or is he more likely to stay with the Bucs? So Liam Cohen leaving increases the odds Godwin is gone. Godwin's most successful year of his career was actually 2024 in the Cohen system. I do think the Bucs want Godwin back, but they won't be the highest bidder. They can't franchise tag him because he's already been tagged twice. A third tag means quarterback money, so that's out of the question. I don't know. I think if Godwin were not injured, he'd 100% be gone. But because he's injured, the price might come down and allow the Bucs to have a more competitive offer. Because the Bucs, they don't, if he's not going to be 100% week one, the Bucs could still sign him because they do have two other receivers in Evans and McMillan to kind of get through a week or two as Godwin ramps up. If it's not the Bucs, here's a list: Patriots, Raiders, Commanders, Chargers, Broncos, and Cohen's new team, the Jaguars, could all be in the mix. Jaguars do make sense to me. Christian Kirk contract could save a lot of money by releasing him. Godwin would be a perfect replacement for that role, but a massive upgrade on the talent. Godwin can still play the outside. He doesn't have to come off the field in two wide receiver sets like they were doing with Kirk. He'd be a perfect wide receiver 2 for BTJ. Both could rotate into and out of the slot. We saw BTJ used that way. Godwin was used that way. It would be perfect. You'd have two players who could rotate that way. And then when you go to 3 wide, you have Gabe Davis playing the second outside wide receiver. In 2 wide receiver sets, you play BTJ and Godwin both as outside receivers. So you'd have a perfect rotation. I kind of like the Jaguars as a link for Chris Godwin. BTJ still on his rookie deal, so everything kind of fits. I think that's, if not the Bucs, I think the Jaguars might actually be my prediction. But we'll see. We'll see. I know the Bucs want to keep him. It's just a question of, will they be outbid? And in terms of cap space, they're not the best. So other teams could outbid them. And yeah, the Jaguars are one I definitely am looking at for Chris Godwin in free agency. Absolutely. Now, if you like the video, make sure to support the channel by subscribing. And don't forget to hit that notifications bell so you can be notified about all my exciting content as it drops. Of course, if you want my best fantasy football advice, it's available on the Patreon. Dynasty content year-round. You can get a 50% discount at all tiers using the code TylerYT. You can sign up by clicking up there, patreon.com/fantasy advice. And every sign-up helps support my independent, year-round fantasy content. But once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all later.